All right, hello, welcome back to the workshop. Something a little different today. I've got another purple E34 Touring in the shop that belongs to Julian, whose YouTube channel is Bavarian Street Tool. I'll put a link, so you should check it out. He's got some interesting stuff going on, and this wagon is going to be a very cool project coming up.
Yeah.
So I thought, in the Bay Area, interestingly enough, we've got 4 different purple E34 Tourings. The goal eventually we'll get them all together, but for now we got 2, and sometimes Julian stores this car over here, so this is the easiest car to get a hold of. So,
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about yours, because I've talked about mine before.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me over and doing this. I think it's fun, and I can't wait to get the 4 together.
Yeah,
I think that'll be one video that's never been made. But this is my 95 525. So just a nice basic package wagon, but it did come with a few fun things. This one is a Euro import, so it had a 5-speed from the factory, which we didn't get in the States, of course. And it has cloth and interior, anthracite cloth interior, which you didn't really get, with sport seats in the front, manual sport seats, and shadowline trim. That's kind of the extent of the options that it had. It's on some M parallels off of a European M5. And aside from that, it's pretty much as it would be. It has a replica front lip. Other than that, it had a respray 3 years ago, and it presents pretty well.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's okay to drive. The M50, it's an M50, pretty gutless. So I'm really excited for something else to be in there. But it's a nice driver, and I really do enjoy taking it around.
Yeah, and so this would have been an individual color too, right? Back this. I don't think was a standard color. I
don't know, actually. I can't confirm.
What is your sticker
I think it's 211. Let's double check. It doesn't, I don't believe it says, oh, it's over there.
Yeah, this.
We can actually, you want to move that?
We could leave it for now.
Okay. 299, excuse me.
So it does say Techno.
It does say Technoviolet. Yeah, I didn't think that it was an individual, because I have seen a handful, like it was a lot more popular of a color in Europe, especially across manufacturers. Purples was more common, more popular states. Really was.
Yeah, that's interesting. So in '95, I wonder if that was the first year for Techno versus Daytona.
Maybe,
because on M5s, Daytona was the 3rd most popular color for an M5 touring. I think number 1 was Avis, number 2 was Diamond Schwarz, and Daytona was number 3. I don't think there were any Techno M5 Tourings. There was a couple or 3 Techno sedans, and I know one actually a person who imported this car has a sedan in Southern California. So
yeah, if you look at least some of the recent auctions happening, you'll see a lot of Techno base model and diesels.
Really?
So I think there were 2 recent auctions that went off. One was a diesel. And it was just a base. I think it was a 520, and those were both Technoviolet.
Interesting, yeah.
Okay. And those were both Tourings. So I think it was more of. I wish I could remember the years on those 2, because that would be helpful for this conversation. But
I wonder if it was becoming more popular towards the end of the model run, to try to get some, try to keep the cars interesting as the model was getting phased out.
Yep. Well, it definitely, in the sunlight, it definitely does catch your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was a pretty heavily optioned car. I mean, with the sports seats and the shadow line, it's really pretty, and the sunroof, which was probably that was probably an expensive option in the day for these.
Also the, oh wait a minute, is this? No, third brake light. Yeah, the third brake light too, in the spoiler, which I knew pretty often was. You didn't get the third brake light.
It definitely wasn't standard.
Yeah, it wasn't a standard option.
This car, it had to be added when it was federalized. So
yeah, this one, as far as I know, came with that. I should double check on the VIN, but it did have cool options. Whoever bought it with the intention of kind of doing something a little bit different. They wanted something that looked a little bit more sporty.
Yeah, and window shades in the back, I saw.
Yep, window shades in the back. It's an October build, so later in the 95.
October 95, wow.
Yeah, so it's later.
That is late.
Very late, yeah. And I mean, the interior is in near perfect condition too, which is crazy.
It's like 300,000 kilometers.
363, I think, 1,000 kilometers.
So that's impressive over 200,000 miles.
386.
Wow. Yeah, so
Almost
that's like,
400.
Like 240,000 miles
Yeah,
or so.
yeah, it's definitely been used and enjoyed.
Yeah, the seats held
Seats
up
are
really
great.
well.
The only spot we have that's a little rough is right on the driver's side bolster. There's one
like
small
usual.
patch missing,
Yeah.
and then a little bit of wear, but the remainder is almost as if it was never sat in.
So let's we'll bring the camera in a little closer so we can kind of compare the colors. My car is it's a 94, and in 94 they called the color Madeira Schwarz. In 95 they changed the name of the color to Madeira Violet. Same color code. It was 302, I think. And now mine has a Sonderlack sticker because this was an individual car. So, and 2 in 94, 2 in 95. So 4 total made in this color of M5 Tourings. The last one actually was parted out, so three, according to the registry, 3 remain. The last one, interestingly, was sold to Gambala, the Porsche tuner, and they developed a kind of bizarre headlight treatment where they used E38 headlights and the grille, and they gave it a little bit more of a sleek front end.
Rounded sort of.
Yeah,
Interesting.
kind of not horrible looking, but not what I would want to do.
Sure.
So we'll bring the camera maybe towards the back because we got a little better lighting. And then we will look at the
compare.
colors.
Yeah, it's worth it.
So the way the light's hitting it, you could see the difference. Yours is definitely more purple. Mine from this angle has definitely got more blue-gray tone to it.
Almost similar to like a Mistachrome-ish.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What was the Terminator Cobra, or what was that?
Oh yeah.
That special color. It's very similar to that. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people would be like familiar with what that looks like.
Yeah, they definitely change in the lighting.
Yeah, not as aggressive as that, but similar tones to that. More so than any other BMW paint I've seen.
Yeah. And then there's the third brake light you were talking about. My car has that because it was added on to be federalized, because mine came in back in 07, so it needed to go through federalization to get titled. It's become a little bit easier now after 25 years.
Definitely.
So let's see what else we got. So you've got aftermarket exhaust, and your car is all monochrome too. Do you know if that was original? How the lower trim? I guess, I guess being a 95, you would have the skirts.
It had the skirt, right.
Yeah,
so that was the way that it. It definitely did. And it has an aftermarket exhaust. I will say from 3,500 to 5,500, it sounds incredible.
Yeah.
It sounds really great. Other than that, it's pretty obnoxious. I had the person that put it together probably had something in mind and just didn't quite make it to that point.
It's tough to do, especially in the wagon. So another interesting thing on these, like my car had my car had a bad muffler when I bought it, and it just rattled. It didn't sound bad, but it was a lot of rattling because it was rusted out internally. So I originally put a Super Sprint, the full catback system on it, which was good. It did drone a little bit. And then a friend of mine who worked at the time for the local dealership parts department, he would always watch out for parts for me, and he noticed that the M5 Touring specific exhaust was kind of on a clearance price, and there were 6 of them in Germany, which usually what happens is, as a part's going to go NLA, they cut the price on it just to get rid of what's left, and then that's that. Oh. So I ordered a brand new full exhaust, and the wagon exhaust is different from the sedan exhaust. Physically, it's the same size, it looks the same, but the muffler has a different part number, so there must be some extra baffling to reduce drone because of this extra space back
and
here.
The open space behind where the muffler would sit.
Yeah.
That did not happen with this exhaust.
That would be tough to replicate on an aftermarket system.
Yeah,
so.
Yep. I mean, eventually this is going to have something completely different anyways, but for now it does its job. Although I have a stock exhaust that I'm going to be putting in. I just picked it up because it doesn't need it. It's not a fast car.
Right.
It is a little bit flashy looking, but it doesn't need to have the exhaust that it has on it right now. No. Let's see. Oh, we talked about in your last video. You talked about your hatch wiring and everything like that. I actually did just buy OEM hatch wiring for both sides. The only one that you can't get is a defroster wiring.
Okay.
So that's the one that needs to be patched.
I'll have to get the part numbers on that one.
Yeah.
I should just have them on hand. Does everything? You haven't done it yet, though.
No, I haven't done it. It's finicky, just like yours.
Yeah.
It's almost the exact same, so it could be some switches too.
Yeah. Back in period, I had a 525 in the 90s, and 90s into probably early 2000, late 90s, early 2000, and even back then, before the harnesses started to fail, the switches would start to go bad.
Yeah.
And mine had a CPO warranty on it, and I brought it in because the the glass stopped working, and they replaced the switch assembly, which I don't know if is still available. That'd be interesting to see because and then they said, the micro switches fail, and the guy had said if you have to click it several times to get it to pop open, it's probably the switch more than the wiring harness.
Got it.
So
mine is more of it's random.
Yeah.
It's not really a multiple times. Sometimes it just decides it wants to, and depends how you close it.
Right.
or open it.
Do you occasionally get taillight or bulb warnings? Or
I don't actually.
Okay.
No.
So when I bought this car, I was getting bulb warnings. My rear wiper didn't work. I mean, everything was.
You know what? I might take that back. It's all in German.
Oh, okay.
So
you're getting some warnings.
I might get some warnings, and I just don't know what it means.
You can change that.
I know.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. I'm learning German this way.
Yeah. No, I did the same.
I know nicht an means, do you want your light on?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Turn it off.
Yeah, I think one time I had an unfamiliar warning, and I asked one of my kids, could you guys translate this for me just to make sure we don't have anything important going on?
Yep.
But yeah, you learn the important warnings. So
this one does have the dog net and the rear shade. Yeah. Although it doesn't have the bar.
That would be interesting to compare because yours is the more typical type.
Yep.
I've seen this on one other car in the U.S., but it was a Euro car also.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen them pop up. Oh, actually, it was years ago now. I haven't seen another. I saw one pop up for sale, like, a reinforcement bar.
It's kind of a pain because it's not easy like that. You just undo the clips and you pull it out. So
when you're going to show it.
Yeah. When you're going to haul something, it's nice to be able to pop that out. Whereas this one is a pain to take out.
We can compare. Here, let's see if we can see yours.
Getting to the point where it's time to replace shocks a second time.
Yeah, when I do mine, I'll be doing just one strut because I remember at least when I did mine on my silver, mine are still good, thankfully.
Yeah.
Or not
Pretty
really.
good.
They hold up.
Is this running right now?
It is actually.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'll be replacing just one because when I did it on my touring, they're thin but really stiff, so they bend.
Oh, okay.
So if you just do one, it's even if this one's blown, it's just enough stiffness that if you go to shut it, it won't bend it because there's not too much crazy pressure.
Yeah, I replaced when I bought the car. So I've had this car for about 11 years now. And of course this was shot when I got it, both this and the glass, and I replaced them. And they're just, when it's cold like now, it does drop a little bit.
Yep.
And if I remember right, one of them I actually had to drill out the bolts because it was seized.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'll never have to do this again.
So I guess what we can.
Can we see that?
Yeah, we can see yours.
So. Yeah, so this, I've got a couple of broken clips too, so mine doesn't fit perfectly.
Mine's very easy.
Yeah.
Although I have you can't put anything on top.
Yeah, which you don't want to. It's like it's like why would you want?
And then it's gonna hit the glass.
Supposedly you could put like 25 kilograms on this.
Oh yeah, it feels like it.
And
you know what this reminds me of is the E34 X5. Had a very similar setup too, where they had a thick bar setup, and they also had the sliding tray at the bottom.
But yeah, so in order to get this out, there should be a clip here which is missing. So you pop that out, and then you can fold it in, and then you have to take like each bar, and because the bar has a little gear wheel that it rolls on, and there's a track, and you have to unclip each one individually, which. Yeah, I hate doing it, but I do like having this in here. And then it doesn't really fold up quite as nice
Whereas
as
this
yours. It's just kind of accordion style.
You just pull it in.
Yeah, and it does flap
there
around. And like, I'm going to take the car on a little rally tomorrow, and this will be kind of rattling around a bit.
And I see yours has dog nets too.
Yeah, I think they all did. I don't know. I see you're missing your middle headrest.
I am, which I'm a little bit bummed about, but I understand a lot of people's complaint is you can't see out the back.
Well, if you look at, and they are about the same size, I guess. I was going to say I thought the middle one was a little smaller, but
they
are the same.
Pretty much the same. I mean, I could probably find someone who's, the anthracite. That's the thing. The cloth anthracite was relatively common in Europe.
Yeah, and I think we've got actually, our interiors look, because my carpets are supposed to be anthracite. Maybe your spare tire.
Mine
looks darker to me. It looks darker to me.
Darker. I wonder if sun.
Maybe.
Mine
maybe.
may have. I mean, mine has a lot more miles. It could have just gotten a lot more sun.
Yeah, and you also don't have the CD changer bump.
No, I have nothing here. I have empty space.
Yeah.
No amplifier, nothing. Although.
Well, the amp is actually behind a panel.
Oh, I thought it was I thought it sat right here.
Because you can't see mine either, but mine does have an amp. Although I think my amp is bad because I have speakers. Yeah, if you look here, I have speakers that drop out. Oh, and I have a net here too. Speakers that drop out occasionally. Like most of the time, my rear speakers don't work. Every once in a while they will, but the amp is behind this panel here.
Oh, interesting.
And then I've got some wiring from like an old phone and stuff like that.
In my 530, the other wagon I had, the amp was visible in the front.
Was that a US? That
was
a US car.
So
Okay.
I'm wondering if US might be different.
Yeah. Because I replaced this car was someone had kind of hacked up the stereo in this car because this was originally a Bavaria C sound system car, which the Bavaria C I think was a Becker system, and it had the head unit, it had a CD changer, but kind of like Mercedes, where the actual radio unit is built into the amp in the back. So, and when it failed, you can't just replace one. You can't just replace the head unit because the head unit is only like a switching device.
Right.
So whoever did it did a terrible job and just put like a cassette player and just direct wired into the speaker harness.
Yeah.
And kind of made a mess of things. They also put the amp, like there was a the wire that comes out of the radio that's the signal to turn on the amp or make your antenna go up and down. They had that hooked up to a wire that was actually comes out of the cluster. So on a Bavaria C car, when you're on the freeway, every 20 kilometers an hour, the radio volume would increase slightly to compensate for road noise.
Right.
So there's a speed signal coming out of the head unit, out of the cluster, to go into the radio. And when I first got the car, one of the things that didn't work was the EDC, and I was going through everything and I wasn't getting a speed signal, so I thought, oh, maybe it's EDC computer, replace the EDC computer. Still nothing, and kept going. And as I started studying the wiring harness, I thought, what is this wire coming from the instrument cluster into the head unit? And then I did some research. I'm like, okay, so it's a speed signal. And I looked to see, well, what is this connected to? And I'm like, oh, it's connected to amp turn on. So it's trying to give a sine wave signal out of the cluster, but the radio is actually putting 5 volts into the cluster, and it actually fried the circuit from the speed signal. So once I figured that out, I rebuilt a cluster with a new motherboard, and everything worked again.
Wow.
So it was a long way around to figure that out.
Yeah.
And then once that happened, once you get it working, then you have to clear the fault code in the EDC computer before the system will work again. But
before it picks back up and starts to work. What's your tool kit look like?
my toolkit is complete except the clips on this thing are
We do
broken.
some trading.
So I've got to be careful because it's going to fall out.
I think this one's actually complete.
So
I see.
these are broken.
Yep. Oh, bummer. Oh, those are.
Which I could.
Yeah, you could get this.
Yeah,
I remember
that's probably
this is
available.
Yeah, you still can buy this guy.
I've got the blue cleaning cloth.
I don't have the blue cleaning cloth.
I've got the triangle. I've got all the wrenches, screwdriver, pliers. I've got everything. Yeah.
I am missing. Oh, weird. Yep, that's okay. So I'm missing the bar. This guy for the spark plug.
I don't know what this.
Wait a minute.
I don't know what this is for.
I wonder if.
Oops.
Oh, mine's taped.
Well, yours is going to have a different spark plug socket because different
exactly.
engine,
So never mind.
But I don't know exactly what this is for.
I think that's the extender.
It's 10 and it's
I
a 10
think
and
it
an 11.
goes through the. Maybe I'm wrong. No, that's what this one's for. This guy goes through the top.
Yeah,
you can turn it.
Right, and this is also a hanger for your wheel. So when you're changing the tire on the side of the road, this slips into your lug, so you can hang the wheel on it without, so the wheel's not always falling off.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So it does. Yeah, BMW was sharp on that. They did multi uses for the same thing. But this looks just like a 10. This is like a 10 and a 13 millimeter hex. It's like a socket.
Just to have it in case you need it.
You would probably slide it in here. I mean, maybe if you had to take the coil pack cover off or something.
So the base spec, poor spec, we didn't get the 13. We got the 10 though. We didn't get the 13 mil.
Yeah.
You had to pay M5 prices to get the 13 mil.
And I've
in
got,
the
I still got the
toolkit package.
I've got the European roadside assistance sticker also still. So
Okay,
if you break
that's
down,
cool.
you got the number. Yeah, speaking of price, back when I first bought the car and was doing research on it, the person who runs the M5 Touring Registry sent me a bunch of information, and this car would have been about 140,000 Deutschmarks in 1993.
Oh, wow.
It was sold in December of ordered in October and sold in December of 1993.
So significant cost
money,
today.
Big money, yeah. If you were to go present value, that's got to be over $200,000.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Although the dollar was strong compared to the mark back then too. So.
Right.
Which is why a U.S. spec M5 would have been about 60 grand.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
I mean, this had individual portions to it, so.
Yeah. The paint I think was like 4,500 for individual paint. Oddly, this has individual interior. The only thing that's different is it's got Napa leather.
Right.
And they didn't spec so on these cars you would either have cloth, which, like on my sedan, the anthracite cloth with the Alcantara would be standard. The next step up was extended leather, where you'd have leather on the seats, the door panels, the center console, the lower part of the dash, and then the next step up was full leather, which included the dashboard, basically. But this car was really spec'd out kind of like a U.S. car, where although you had nicer leather, it did Napa leather instead of whatever Montana or whatever the standard leather was. But it did vinyl on the door panels and on the center console and on the lower dash. So they didn't have leather all through that.
Interesting.
Originally sold to a contractor in Germany.
Okay.
He had the car. I've got the registration history from everybody who'd owned the car. And of course I stalked everybody and tried to find them.
Sure.
And I found one guy on Facebook and sent him a message, and he never replied. So.
Yeah. That's the sad part about this, but I also understand when you compare two cars like these, it's going to be a lot more common probably to find people who are going to invest a lot more time into documentation for an M5 versus just a standard 525i. So I have no paperwork on history or anything, especially in the documentation or the import process. All that paperwork just got lost.
Yeah.
So, but that's cool. I love that type of stuff. That's what
I've got the ski sack. You also
Nope.
No, you don't have the ski sack.
I do
Okay,
not.
so
Nope.
that was like an
There's a
extra too
difference.
then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of those things that you never want to unfold because you'll probably never fold it back up again. So.
Let's see. I don't think there's any differences in the jack.
Yeah, jack. There should be a wheel chalk in there somewhere.
Yeah, this guy.
Yeah.
And then no, I don't think there's any differences. I think those are both the same.
Yeah, that's the same. I think this is where your tow bar stuff goes. That fits up in there.
Oh yeah. Yep. Now that I'm looking at that.
And then
Let's see. Well, you have a M bag.
yeah, that was more modern. And then basically, yeah, I've got an M system wheel without a cover. I've got the auxiliary fuel tank, the accessory fuel tank.
I've actually
back
just
here.
realized I have one of those funky.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet that's what this car came
It
with.
is, and that was those funky ones that are really hard to find.
Yeah, they're
I
16
think
inch.
you could see that in the camera.
16 inch. Let's see.
Look at
Yeah,
the
you can.
tire on this thing.
Yeah, it's an original P6000. Wow, I mean, that's pretty cool. I love
love
an original spare tire.
Me too. And look at how clean. It's probably never been used.
It's got a 3-digit date code that ends in 5, so 38th week of 1995.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I actually never opened this and looked at the spare wheel. This is the first time I've looked at the spare wheel.
225, 55, 16.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the finish on it is great.
Yeah,
it's
there's
just
that
a little scratch.
There's that guy on one of the Facebook groups who's got the one of one.
Yeah.
Techno
Yeah.
525, and he's
Yep.
got those wheels because that must be what this car came with.
Exactly. You know, what's funny is I was really hesitant to post that I had got this wagon
Yeah,
after
because of that.
because
Yeah,
of
I know.
that, and then I posted.
And,
I actually
and of course, some
yeah.
people did say one of one.
They did. Yeah, they went, "Oh, techno car, huh?" I went, "Oh man."
Yeah, and then I've got the 9-gallon fuel tank or gas can. Basically.
Oh wow, that sits in the center of the wheel,
Or
right?
9 liter, not 9 gallon. Yeah.
Sits in the center of the
So
wheel.
yeah, and again, an original Michelin MXX2, original spare.
Look at us.
Yeah.
So not only do we have two very unique colored Tourings, but we have two unique colored Tourings with original spares with their tires on them.
Which, the logic of a 30-year-old spare tire is probably not the
I would
best.
never put it on anything, but I'd put it on the wall.
I've used mine because I've gotten flats. I got a flat on a rally once, and so I ran the tire for 2 days of a rally, and it was actually not bad. You know, it worked surprisingly well. I was conscious of it and I was careful, but.
How is the condition of your rear? Does your rear sprayer work on your hatch?
Not well.
Okay.
And I think it's because I've got a kink in the actual hose.
So the motor works, but
yeah, it pumps. This pops up and it just kind of dribbles out.
okay.
So
So that's
or
good. The
maybe
motor works.
Or maybe the nozzle is plugged.
Mine works too, which
yeah.
is cool.
Yeah.
I was really stoked because I didn't want to have to fix that.
Yeah.
So that's cool. It's one of those little functions, like when you look at like the
It's
engineering
handy.
of a car, super handy.
Yeah.
And it's just
And you
unique.
used to be able to find these cars in junkyards, wagons all the
Oh
time.
yeah,
And just-
I remember when I started in 2019 or whatever with my first wagon, I was finding them. Not anymore, not at all. I see you have that a little antenna?
That was part of a cell phone system
Okay.
that was in the car.
Yeah.
So when I had the headliner, when I bought the car, the sunroof didn't work. Headliner, of course, was drooping. Nice thing really about sunroof headliners on these is they come out in components, so they're really easy to deal with instead of one giant headliner card. So you take the rear part out, you take the side panels out, you get the front out, and it all comes out pretty easily.
Yeah.
So I brought that to an upholstery shop, and they did it in kind of basically the same black in an Alcantara material instead of cloth. And I replaced the entire sunroof cassette with one out of just a working parts car. But while I was in there, there was a bunch of wiring that went to this that I just disconnected. But since I've got a hole in
It's
the
cool
roof,
to keep it there.
I kind of like it.
And it's something that you wouldn't notice at first glance.
Yeah,
But it is a cool little piece. Also something that people don't really notice at first glance is my car does not have rails.
Yeah, you don't notice that at first.
Yeah, so my car does not have rails and your car does. Let's see
Yeah.
if maybe we can get a little better angle.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we were talking about roof rails. So your car does not have them.
nope.
My car has the roof rails. And my car actually came with the base of the factory rack, which was made by Thule for BMW. So you can actually adapt Thule components. So I've got a basket somewhere over here, and the bike, back when kids were little and we'd take road trips with the car and we'd carry the bikes. Oh, that's all locked in. So this is just sitting here right now, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Just to kind of show the difference.
It
you can really
definitely,
see it.
and then I had a spoiler, but I don't think it worked. It didn't work. I can't remember if it worked or not with this car. I have to look back through pictures and see, because you definitely get a lot of wind noise.
Yeah.
So,
I imagine so.
but it definitely added to the utility.
And I don't know necessarily what. I mean, it did. This just doesn't have them. It doesn't. There's no holes drilled.
Right. No, it was an option.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Even
very cool.
on these, so out of the 891 wagons, 140 something did not have a sunroof, and then a smaller number of those did not have roof rails. So there were a small number that were just total slick tops.
Right, and I'm wondering if we were talking about the options here. I think the person just wanted a sporty looking wagon, and then maybe they didn't have M5 money, and they didn't have.
And they figured, well, I'm never going to carry anything on the roof.
Right. So
you could still put a gutter mount rack if you wanted to.
You could just see the squeeze ones,
Yeah.
but I mean, to be honest, it does look nice. It does give it a nice look.
Yeah.
I do like the utility of these,
Right.
but I have known some friends who have had the rail ones, which I think almost all the U.S. wagons, aside from a few slick tops.
I'm pretty certain, because I think it was standard on the U.S. cars. Yeah. Towards the end of the U.S. car production, they had a value package car, and those are the ones that had vinyl seats, the basic onboard computer, which is basically just a clock. And they didn't have rails, and they didn't get the sunroof.
And our friend Adrian has.
Yeah.
And I was able to look at that, and it was kind of like that is like the stripper spec, and not everybody who wants to build something kind of sporty or fun. That's the one to go after. So it's kind of cool to see the different stages of that.
I would imagine it's stiffer because this.
Sure.
I moved this car when I didn't have the sunroof assembly in place, and just pulling in and out of the driveway, you could feel a lot more flex to the chassis with that big hole in the roof. Because people say, oh, you should take it out and do like a folding Webasto sort of fabric thing, and then there would be probably so much flex, because this actually adds a lot of structure, having the metal panels in there.
Yep. And as much as I think a slick top would be cool, I love the dual cylinder.
I do too. Yeah, I use it all the time.
I do too. Mine works.
Yeah, mine does too.
And just like you mentioned before, if you don't use it, you will lose it for sure, especially with the motors and all the components.
And an interesting little thing, I don't know if it'll show up on the camera, 95, they put those little indentations in the back panel.
Yep.
So when it folds, the little feet from the front motor sit into that because they always leave marks on the paint on these cars.
Yep.
So they did that. Finally, at the end, they figured, oh, if we do something like this, it'll just sit here and it won't mar the paint.
Right, and this being in October of 95, it really did get all the...
Yeah, I wonder how late the production went, because I know M5 Tourings, by July of 95, they were done. So, but what E34 wagons did go, I don't know if they ever called them a 96 model year, but that's definitely like when you would be building a 96 car.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a 96. I'm not sure
badged,
that exists. Yeah, but this is late.
What key do you have?
It is the battery key with the light in the front.
Yeah, so you've got the late key too. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, mine's a little bit older. It's got the multi-button.
You can show the camera what these look like.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So mine looks like actually early E39s had a similar looking key to mine too, except maybe 2 buttons. But you've got, these are infrared, so line of sight. You got to get a little closer.
It's camera shy.
There we go. So you got lock, and then you've got double lock with arming the alarm.
I would really I'll probably put something like that because that's one of the modern features that's really wonderful.
Well, you should have that.
No.
Well, it's probably, really?
Yeah, that one's just a light.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
It probably was an option.
Yeah, but I think it would have options for sure. This one, I just don't think that it's come with it. And the locks are getting sticky.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll have to go through and fix some things like that. But
So yeah, speaking of alarms, that reminded me, I've got in the box new remote keyless entry system. So we'll have to look at some point and see if your car is pre-wired. So the US cars were all pre-wired.
Yep.
So this would have been a plug and play system for E34, E36, probably E32. And it gives you the 3-button remote.
Yep. That's the M5 that is in the video on has the system in it. So with option and
yeah, so I've got this box, and then I've got some other components that a friend of mine gave me when they were going through an inventory clean out at the dealer.
And speaking of pre-wired stuff, that's also a fun topic to talk about because when you start to look at some of the BMW pre-wired things, like we're talking about the tow hitch, both of these yours doesn't have it, right? Yeah, so both of these didn't come with them, but everything's there, which is cool.
My sedan had it from the factory. At one point in the US, the car was rear-ended, and at the body shop, they asked the owner at the time, we can't get the bumper with this tow hitch. Can we just get rid of the tow hitch? And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to ever tow anything. So they just deleted the whole thing. But I do have a full assembly with the light module and the wiring that plugs into the factory harness. I don't know if it's here or if it's at home. It might be at home. Actually, it's probably is here. But yeah, that's the plan. And I've got the bumper with the cutout. And yeah, I always thought having the tow bar on the wagon would make sense.
Right,
not
and
that I'm going to tow anything. But
I'll be doing the same because I think it does make more sense to have it on a. Which is funny because of the two, the M5 you own and the wagon, and the wagon I own and the M5 I own now.
Both sedans have
Both sedans have the tow.
Yeah.
And I just got back from a trip to Prague and Vienna, and I did talk about this as a joke. Every car there, including the mopeds, I felt like had a tow hitch on them. So it was very common.
Towing things
and it is really cool, and it definitely would belong on a wagon, I think, versus a sedan. So I'll be doing the same thing, and it's all wired. It's all wired for it, all the wiring.
Yeah, it goes right where we were looking back for the amp system. That's where the module plugs in.
And do you know the tow rating on those things? I know it says 80 kilos.
Oh, that's just ton. Yeah, I think it's like 1,500, 2,000 kilograms. I think it's pretty substantial.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you have the brakes for it, there's really no other reason why you could. As long as it's got some substantial. It's
those are beefy. I mean, they bolt right up to the frame. The only thing that you lose with that is you lose the bumper shocks. So in Europe, there was no 5-mile-an-hour standard at this time. And that's why we never got them in the U.S.
Right.
Same thing with the E39. When I had my E39 M5, I sourced a factory tow bar from the UK, and you lose the bumper shocks because it gives you a solid bracket that bolts between the bumper. So basically, you've got the body, the frame of the car, the unibody, and then the tow bar bolts to that, and then the bracket bolts to the tow bar.
Yeah.
and so you lose your bumper shock.
I mean, even just picking up the tongue too when you're,
It's heavy.
it's a heavy tongue.
Yeah, it's solid.
It's
Yeah.
a solid thing. So that'll be fun when we get those. I'll just take that bumper off the M5 too and
Yeah.
swap on the other, because you know what, it's better on this anyways.
Yeah,
That'd
yeah.
be cool to see.
Yeah,
them
you
both
can move
together.
everything over.
Great.
All right, well, maybe we'll wrap it up. And next time, maybe we'll do one with the cars outside on the road or
I
something.
think it'd be cool,
So,
especially, see how they, I mean, it's no comparison, the two different drive lines, but it is fun to kind of feel what the differences between the suspension setup and everything else that goes along with that. And
Yeah.
feel what the cloth is like versus the leather. And
Right,
it's
right.
fun to also show people what they sound and look like
oh, yeah.
on the road.
Yeah.
So,
All right, great.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for coming out. Thanks
Yeah.
for watching. Happy New Year. And we'll look forward to more in 2025.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks.